Okay. Here we are, 18 seconds into the show. It's 7:32 Eastern Standard Time. And I am your sensei, Al Bob. Good to see ya. Oh boy. So, what is truth? Do we even know what it is? How can we know it? You know, you read the newspapers, watch the tube, the screen, social media, those things. What's truth? You know, what do you want truth to be? You know, you want it to be something you don't know. You want to be surprised. You want to be informed. What is being informed anyway? You know, it sure isn't watching CNN or Fox or MSNBC or any of the above of those guys. Oh, they're all, I mean, that's what I call the sock puppets. Anybody who's getting paid lots of money, you know, you're getting paid. Though, you know, if you, yo, are you listening? Hidden hand, I know you are. You know, powers that shouldn't be, sock puppets. Well, the sock puppets, they're just sock puppets. They have no power. You know, none of our our legislators the best money can buy. They have no power. They don't represent you. They never do. They never will. They never have. And you know, if you look at things deeper, you know, through the eyes of somebody like George Carlin, or if you go onto my playlist and look at, you know, like today afternoon, I played little bits of, you know, David Icke and a whole bunch of folk. And people complain, hey, I didn't watch you to watch somebody else. Well, that was just a test, you know, to see if you were even thinking. Are you thinking? Hmm? So what do you want? You know, oh, I said I'd be here at 7:30 and here I am. We're live. Everything seems to be, as my teachers would say, all things are as they should be. What I was going to do, and I will do, if enough of you show up sooner rather than later, we were going to do a guided meditation where I would take you to the library, the filing cabinet, the Rolodex of truth, you know, so you can quickly find out what's true and what's not, you know. And so let's see. Well, until somebody shows up, I'm just going to entertain myself. This is going to be like a backward flip of. I love that show, Science Fiction Theater 2000 or 3000 or whatever it is. You know, and I'm just a puppet. Woo, pull my strings. Come on, give me the envelope. I'm ready for the envelope. La 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 la, boo boo boo. Hey. Come on, Android, start up. Anybody? Oh, there's one. Hey, there's one of you. Here I am. I'm here. Where are you? There I am. Where are you? Who are you? So we're talking about truth. What do you want to know about truth there, number one? Well, there I am. I'm live. There's one of me watching. Oh. Playlist. Ooh. Oh, now there's three. Now there's two. Come on. Twitchy. Hey, Twitch. What's up, girl? So we're talking about not history. We're talking about truth. What truth is there? What do you want to know about truth? Hmm? Now, Donnie, DT, he's a great example of truth. Now, is he the great hero that's going to bring down the deep state and empty the swamp? I don't know. You look at his cabinet, and it's like every banker that caused the collapse. What is true? Yeah, what is true? We're going to do a guided meditation where we're going to go look at what truth is, right? And I'm going to show you how you can plumb truth, how you can see truth, know truth. Question is, do you want to know truth? Do you want to know why you do the things you do? Do you want to really know where your karmic wheel came from? Why you're on the dharmic path? Why do you think I'm always talking about the only truth is love's co-creation? Everything else is an illusion. I mean, because that's the easiest way to put it. Why do you think I'm always talking about, hey, we need to build a new alternative aesthetic, right? Because aesthetics, truth comes from aesthetics. What is our foundation? Where are we coming from? Ugh. And I kind of, the thing I like about the social media, you look at all these YouTube things, all the way from people who kind of go whack over Star Trek and science fiction. This kind of interesting truth ream media. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. And you watch their stuff, and again, there's a lot of interesting information, but it's coming from their point of view. Now, is that truth? Right? Real reason why weather is manipulated. How modern reality is being manufactured. That was a good one. They definitely.
You're going to have to bear with me on this video because it's going to be a little different from the videos that I normally do. For a long time now, I've been trying to run away from the daily news because I feel like it's really not just that it's a distraction. I think it's just mainly meant to impart anger and fear.
Yep, anger and fear, Which do you want? Do you want to kind of have a window that you can see through and kind of understand yourself? Or do you want to join a tribe where you can yell at everyone else? Your tribe is right, everyone else is wrong, That isn't quite truth, right? And back in 2015, when DT came down that escalator and said he was running for president, when I saw that, I knew he was going to be our president. I just kind of knew it. And because I knew that, we've never, the people have never voted, I love this thing. This is a radio show called Democracy Now. Well, there's no such thing, you know. And they have one of these cheers of these high school kids. What do we want? Democracy. When are we going to have democracy? No, sorry. What is democracy but not the rule of law, but the rule of the mob? And that's kind of what we got. And we have democracy. We have rule of the mob. Our Constitution puts us forth as a republic, and all our founding fathers were Masons, and they were all illuminated, and they were all into, what was going on in Europe, where, everybody was talking about science and truth and da 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 da. But why did we even have a revolution? Because, the homeboys in the United States were tired of King George. George wanted to have, he forced, hey there, fish, I want to have the unseen realms, or whatever terminology is used, to have an almost inconceivable amount of connections and integration into my life and okay. That's why I love fish. Don't beat around the bush. That's what our guided meditation is going to be, right? Right now it's 7:44, and I'm just going to kind of droll on about stuff until either 8 o'clock shows up or more than 2 people. But I've kind of embraced the concept of I don't care how many people are watching or how many people are, as long as there's somebody like Fish who can say that, I'm happy to be here, I'm here about trying to learn the old Irish legends and stories that I could learn to play. Okay. That's another, he wants to be a bard. Fish, just go Google Irish bards' tales. Great place to start. Start looking at, the World Wide Web is gigantic. You'll find at least 20 tales that you can, have a resonance. And that's what truth is, having the resonance, I've been learning about stuff recently about Césaire stuff. Okay, if you've been learning about that, inform us, Fish. Thus, I can respond in a deeper sense, right? As your sensei, Griot. So, we're still, right? She's got 15 minutes to keep writing Fish and throwing that line in there for me so I can get hooked. But yes, I'm going to exactly take us on a guided meditation to exactly what you want. I want to have an unseen realm, or whatever terminology is used, to have an almost inconceivable amount of connections and integration into my life and my consciousness, right? Well, that's truth right there. Back to integration, that's truth, okay? So that's where we're going to go. Is a granddaughter of Noah sailed 3 ships across the Mediterranean all the way to Ireland. That was the first woman to touch the island. Ship, 50 women made it, and 3 men. Yep, that's all they needed was 3 men, And, there's so much nanodust in our atmosphere. We are being transhumanized to the point where human women are going to start fertilizing themselves. They did it in the past. They're going to do it now. Problem is that it's being, the fix is in. We're going to get something we're not banking on. And that's one of the problems. Why, Fish, did our sister Noah's granddaughter head to Ireland? Because she wanted to get away from the boys who were morons, right? In Islam, the great prophet, he's cool. His grandchildren, they were way cool. His granddaughter and his grandson. You should go look at those two fish because, especially the granddaughter, the grandson was straight up dude, granddaughter, meaning what happened was the Persians invaded the lands of where the um, Islam was. So you got to realize what Islam really is. What is Islam? But it's the mixture of Judaism and Christianity. Islam, Muslims, might like, whoever might not like me saying this, but Muslims are like Christians on steroids. I would really like to see some Christians pray 5 times a day. Right? And I'd love it if Christians would go to Islamic, religious spot when the call of prayers are given and go pray with them. I used to do it, I used to do it when I was living in North Africa, when I lived in Egypt. I lived in this little tourist town right at the foot of the pyramids, right? And the people I worked for went off and dug things up, and I was just there to give my opinion on things when they showed up, the next day or a couple of days. But I was in a nice kind of motel with at least air conditioning and a shower and money that I could walk around and, go into the restaurants and coffee shops and talk to people. And I got to know everybody. And I went into the mosque, one day. I started going to the mosque for prayer, right? And I, as an anthropologist, I do my homework. I'm a psychosocial, cultural, forensic cultural anthropologist. And so I do my homework on who I'm studying. So I don't, diss them or insult them, right? So I would go to the prayers. I know there's the boy door, the girl door. Went in there, took my shoes off, went into prayer. And yes, I definitely stood out, didn't look like the rest of the kids in there, but I was very respectful and, very quiet and very prayerful because I'm a prayerful guy. And I would meditate and I would go into state and the energetics of it, the head dude would come. I remember the first time I was here, he came over and said, "So who are you?" And I told him my story straight up, so he could, even though this town was a tourist town, pretty much everybody knew everybody and everybody knew what's going on. So I told him what it was, and he said, "Well, good." And I told him that I had been a Catholic priest in training, and I had a cardinal as a godfather, and I lived in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and he understood that that was the land of the Hasidim. And then I told him that I went to a Lubavitcher and I could speak Hebrew, read Hebrew, not speak it, read it, which is a big difference, And that I was into, Kabbalah. And anyway, so this guy was a true scholar himself because, any guy who's running the main mosque right there at the foot of the pyramids in the Valley of the Kings, they just don't let anybody have that job. So we got to be, buds. And I would have tea with him and I would bring him, go over to I said, "So what's your favorite bakery?" And I bring over little box, when I go to pray, I take off my shoes, put my stuff up in a little cubby. And after me and a couple of the boys would go and talk, right? And I bring the best of the best, little pastries, and these guys make pretty good pastries. And that's the kind of thing you do. You find out what is the traditional way of moving through, and you just pose a question and then listen. You don't tell them what the truth is. You don't tell them, "Well, I'm from New York, so I know what's." No, sorry, no. And the more you just bring one interesting question that everyone can talk about, and you listen, they appreciate, and you bring the cookies, and you learn how to drink tea the way they do and eat the way they do, and it's they become your friends. To not have ever been inhabited by humans and was to be safe from So the bards, right? The druids, right? The Romans, St. Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland. Well, the snakes were the people who kind of ran it. St. Pat was, he was a spy from Rome. The Romans sent in legions. They never came back. What happened? I mean, they didn't have one come back. They didn't even get a head in a basket. They just never came back. And St. Patrick said, I'm going to go. Oh, you need a legion? No, I'm just going to go. And he kind of did the same thing, as I would, step back. And the snakes, you got to realize there are two basic, Inky and his brother, who basically made humanity. Inky represented the snakes, and the other guy represented the eagles, and that's why double head. These are the kind of things you have to fish look for, because it's not that there weren't folk there in Ireland; they just weren't the Romans. They were, the snakes. And that's we've been told or made to think that snakes are evil, terrible, and no, and Neil and Inky, right? So, and they were part of the crew of the guys who came from upstairs. And you have to realize also that Earth was like a back, our solar system was a Deep Space Nine. It was a place where a lot of people came. And the movie Men in Black, where you see, their little thing is like the Kennedy Airport of aliens. That was our solar system. And there was a planet in the middle of our solar system that was like, where like Superman came from, KL, whatever his planet was, Krypton, that was, right? And we had a little solar system war between these different extraterrestrial factions. And, all of what you see in, Star Wars came straight out of Joseph Campbell's mouth to the ears of George Lucas. And Lucas was just writing it down. He never gave Joseph Campbell World War I. So Joseph Campbell was being Lucas's griot. He told him the whole story, and Lucas made this imperial thing. And J.J. Abrams took over along with that girl because they're both anointed ones, and they've been, especially J.J. Abrams, you look at all his, stuff. He lost that island, that all the weirdness was going on, Fringe, Person of Interest. I mean, just guys like 10, 15 years ahead of all his TV shows, which are 10, 20 years ago, is kind of what's kind of going on now. What he did with Star Trek, he was, given the mantle, right? And he was given the inside dope. And so was, when you look at the guy who started Star Trek, he was hanging out with the boys who started JPL. And you go look at the guys who started JPL. They were all Satanists. They were all, L. Ron Hubbard. I mean, go look up that story of the guy who started JPL. There's three guys, and one was a Chinese guy, and he was brilliant, and he was, helped us win World War II. He was, on against the commies. He was right. And just because he was Chinese, the FBI guys hated his guts and gave him a hard time, just kept giving him a hard time. And he left. And, and basically he left because the Rockefellers wanted him to go give the Chinese the leg up on having rockets. And the Chinese, would not have any kind of space, anything, if this guy who helped start JPL back in the 40s didn't go to China. And he went there via the Rockefellers. And again, Twitchy, let's see. Hey, I don't understand why finding out past life stuff is so emphasized. It might explain our current situation. Yes, it does, but it doesn't change anything besides knowing, right? Well, isn't it nice instead of being, dumbass and just stepping in cow shit all the time to know to not, move over here a little bit. Oh, don't step there. It's nice to have a little heads up when you're going through life. Never been that interested personally. Well, it just gives you a little heads up, right? And as Plato used to say, it's a wise man who's guided by the stars, a fool who's led by them. Let's see. I never been. Okay. So, it's just, and, it's a mathematical formula, it's also, everyone thinks, our lives are just chance. Not really. You can be totally oblivious to things, and yes, it seems like chance. But if you become more aware, and again, guided by stars, not led by them. If you just take in information, it gives you an informed potential to understand stuff. And Fish here is wants to understand certain esoteric motifs of history, right? Now, it's called his story for a reason, because morons pay people to write it. Thucydides, who was the daddy of our version of written history. Someone said, so Thucydides, what's history? And he said, or what's written history? And he said, it's whatever the Romans pay me to write, because back in the day, up until him, everybody was a griot. Plato was a griot. Socrates was a griot, and they would tell these stories like I do with the thread of truth, but more in a shamanic way that would resonate with the people who were listening. I want to recreate the new aesthetic of our lost global advanced civilization. Okay, here it is, 8:00. There's 4 of us, good enough. We're going to go into state, and I'm going to take you to that place, right? I'm going to take you to the river, I'm going to take you to boo, boo, boo. I want to have the unseen realms of whatever terminology is used to have an almost inconceivable amount of connection. That's where we're going tonight. The inconceivable amount of connection, right? Okay, everybody, all 4 of you, get comfy. Put yourself in a place that's safe and secure, a chair or lie down in a bed, and turn off the bright lights. Put the kitty out, the kids to bed. Remember, this is just for your entertainment's sake. And here we go. So start breathing deep. Uncross your hands, your feet, whatever. Just lie, sit in a comfortable and safe manner so your avatar will be fine on automatic pilot. And breathe in that 20% and breathe out that for 30%. And as you breathe in that 20%, you're breathing in the prana. And the prana is the life force that animates your avatar, your bag of water. Otherwise, it would just be a bag of water with some trace elements in it, right? And that prana is coming from love's co-creation. It is that vehicle that you breathe in, fill your lungs. And by breathing in 20% more, it lifts your diaphragm, expands your lungs, allows the areola, those little sacs in your lungs, to absorb the prana. Because when you breathe that shallow puppy breath, you normally do, you hardly get anything in, and you definitely don't breathe that much out. And by breathing 30% out, what you're doing is allowing yourself to breathe in that 20% a lot easier. And also, your breath expels more waste products from your body, cellular, biological waste products, than any other, more than shit, more than piss, more than sweat. Breath, because if you are breathing deeply and expelling, you breathe something to the order of 20,000 cubic feet of breath every day, right? If you are breathing puppy breath, you're doing maybe 1,200 to 5,000 cubic feet, if that. So see it clearly. And every day, in every way, you take the piece of the earth and make it stronger by your breath, breathing in that prana. And the prana is going into your lungs, and the blood is being pumped from your heart. And your heart is the main spiritual tool of your body. It's not your brain. Your brain is just a Rolodex. It's where the squirrel lives, right? Your heart is the CPU of your conscious free will's ascension. And it has a lot of current in it. So you're breathing in that prana, the blood, the iron-rich blood is going through your lungs and carrying all of that prana throughout your whole cardiovascular system, and it's swirling. It doesn't go blub, blub, blub. It swirls, right, against the walls of your veins and arteries and capillaries. And then inside of that swirl is another swirl going the opposite, counterclockwise. And then inside that clockwise going 90 degrees. What does that do? But create a flow of current, of scalar current, right? Alternating current in a scalar, right? Instead of Hertzian, which is just 2, x, y, scalar is 16 different dimensions, right? And when you are flowing with scalar current, you just don't exist in this two-dimensional, very limited 5 senses. You know, your 5 senses represent 0.0095% of your ability to navigate the universe, right? And what you and we think is reality is, again, 0.0095% of just this universe, which is an illusion. You know, that's why science is, starting to realize that pretty much like this table, this head, everything has way more space between anything. And in that space is the ability, they call it the ether or the vacuum. And from that, you can absorb unlimited energy, right? And when you do that, you, like if you take matter and you go for the 0 point energy through that vacuum, you pull it out. What you do is within every cell, with every atom, you've got the proton and the electron, right? Zipping around, right? And when you absorb that current from that, the mass stays there, but the energetic particle, the thing that is the ether is absorbed. So one reason why, Einstein said you can't go faster than the speed of light is entropy, right? Is that fast you go, that little electron and proton are zipping around and get heavier and heavier until you need more and more energy to move that. And that's why when you have a chain reaction, you're releasing all that energy. And that's why you get an atomic explosion. When you go into fusion, that's when all those atoms are being pushed together, and that's really a release, right? And within the explosion of a fusion reaction, there is a tremendous amount. Why it's so much bigger? You're getting a tremendous amount of energy from the vacuum, right? And that's why it's. But guys like Teller didn't understand that. They're just thinking about the bigger sledgehammer. And if it worked like they thought it would, what would happen is the amount of entropy that would be created, it would form a black hole, and the planet would go inside out. But because it's releasing this from the vacuum, right? So why did I give you that little physics thing is because that's what's happening to you. That's why you go into state, because you're breathing in the prana, you're energizing, every cell of your body through the creation of scalar energy in your blood, and it's going into every cell. And when your cells are separating, right, when mitosis is occurring, that's like a little nuclear baboom. And around the cell, before as it's breaking apart, you see the mitochondria like little lightning bolts. And when you energize that with the prana and ground it through your chi, you are connecting heaven to Gaia. And then you are that physical representation of love's co-creation. And that's where you can transmute anything. That's where you can manifest anything you want. You don't have to listen to the newscast and be scared by this. Or, how do doctors walk through the tuberculosis ward? I used to work in hospitals and work in places where there was communicable disease. And the two things, I would wear a mask, yes, and I would wash my hands. That's all I did, right? Other than that, not much. Sometimes I would wear a gown so I could just take it off. But bottom line, I was shamanically, energetically, lifting every cell of my body to a place where those diseases were not communicable to me. And that's kind of the whole idea of immunization when you get that shot. And it would work if you basically, before they get that needle in there, you're visualizing, I'm not going to get, the flu. I'm not going to get pneumonia. I'm not going to get this, And you do that, it's really, so I have all these things wrong with me. And, I went and saw my doctor yesterday, and he was going, oh, here's your, he went through the whole list. They gave me 50 different medicines to take, right? And he went through them. You taking this? No. You taking that? No. Taking this? No. And I only take 2. And I take the one, and they gave me metformin. That sucked. And so I had my doctor, well, let's try this. Let's try that, and he was up for that. The first doctor, I'm the doctor I know what's, I said, good, you're not my doctor anymore, until I found this one that I could work with, right? And that's what you have to do internally. You have to work with yourself from the inside out, right? So, fish, you want to, to have an almost inconceivable amount of connection and integration, right? So to do that, you have to boost your power supply, right? So that's why you're breathing in the prana, and you are turning it into shamanic energy of scalar waves, and you are grounding it to your chi. So you have this total path of truth, right? And that creates a photonic light that, see the shadow? This is incandescent light. If this was photonic light, there wouldn't be a shadow here. This is my shadow hand. Ooh, right? And so when you create that current flow of energized shamanic energy, you get photonic light, right? And when it's grounded to your chi through Gaia, you are then able to absorb 0-point energy into you, right? Which allows you to illuminate your imaginary mirror and go into your Akashic record. And your Akashic record is your library of everything that you've ever friggin' done. And not just you, the whole universe, So I'm going to start counting from 1 to 3. And as I do, you're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper into a state of conscious relaxation. And 1, your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. You're breathing that 20% in, breathing that prana. You've illuminated yourself through taking that prana into your body and transporting it to every cell through your blood. And you have turned that blood into a scalar current flow, right? Connecting from Father Sky to Mother Earth. From Father Sky, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. As was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. And every day and every way you take the peace of the earth from Father Sky, and you make it stronger with love's co-creation. And you ground it into Gaia. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and the hour of death. Amen. And every day and every way, we take the peace of the earth and make it stronger with love's co-creation. Love is the only thing that exists. Everything else is an illusion. See it clearly. And you are illuminating your imaginary mirror right behind your eyelids. We have REM sleep. We have your dreams, when you experience dreamy time. And you can, when you do this, before you go to sleep, if you put yourself in state in this manner and you've got your eyes closed and you're seeing your imaginary mirror, you can dream about whatever you want. You can have lucid dreams. You remember them completely because they will be in your Akashic record, right? So you're taking that photonic light and you're focusing it through your imaginary mirror, and you're walking through your imaginary mirror into your subconscious mind, and you're seeing that it's not a scary place. You're illuminating it with your photonic light, like a flashlight, a headlight, and you're walking into your library, and you see in front of you, there's the fireplace of the eternal flame, and it's all those bricks are really big books, and in front of the fireplace are these nice comfy chairs, and in front of that is a table, your reading table, and behind that is your reading chair, and above is the photonic light that shines and illuminates everything without any shadows. And to the left of you is your librarian who brings you your Akashic records, your animal totem who's there as your griot to tell you stories about what you read, because you can see things in your Akashic records you may not understand. Even though there's the big screen where you see the big picture, and then you have the 28 little screens that give you that scalar, multi-dimensional look at everything, you still might need a story or two to give you the 411 on what you're seeing and how it relates to you. And fish, this is what you need to use. You want to know these stories? This is where you're going to find them. You need to go into state and see it as a movie played out in front of you. See it, you got all the different characters on the 28 little screens, seeing all their different characteristics, what they do, why they did it, their motivations. This is where you write songs, right? And you will see that the traditional story, but you, fish, can write the song. You need to write the song. You need to be the bard. So, fish, I want you to right now sit down at your table, and your librarian brings you your Akashic record, and you open it up. Well, everyone there, all two of you, your librarian brings you your Akashic record, and you put your right hand, open up the book, and the right hand on the right blank page and the left hand on the left, and you lean into your Akashic record and you eliminate all the anger, all the fear, all the self-loathing, the anxiety, the envy, all of those negative emotions that clog every cell of your body. That's what causes you disease. I mean, what gives you embolisms? It's when you have anger, fear, hate, self-loathing, animosity, and you can't get rid of it. This is how you get rid of it. You evacuate it out of you into the book. You close the book. Boom. Now you feel lighter than a feather. You feel great. You've gotten rid of all of this negative energy. You want to heal yourself of cancer. You want to heal yourself of heart disease. What is heart disease but the inappropriate use of this negative energy, and it goes straight into your heart. When anyone says something mean or cruel, instead of like letting it go and not bothering you, and then on the rebound, you look at it and say, what's that about? What caused that? Did I have anything to do with that? How should, and you look at it that way, when you empty yourself of all that fear, you can then look at everything in this from the text, people are always going on about the canon of this, that, and the other thing. That's the canon. Your Akashic record is the canon of you. And you can view everything that goes on in your life and your past and your present. And, Twitchy, you want to know why, karma and all of that is important. It's because that's what motivates your emotions. And if you can observe it here, you won't be twitchy. You won't be upset. You won't be nervous. You won't be anxious. You won't be depressed. You won't be any of those things that you're being forced to say, someone who you give authority to says, oh, you're this, that, and the other thing. No, you will have the authority to run your own life. And Fish, those are the songs you need to talk from back in the day. The stories of those who had their own authority, that they had the word I'm looking for starts with an S. When you have your own, governments have it, we don't want to give up our S word, we don't want to be globalistic and give up our S word, And Fish, if you can, go for word, stories and songs that go from there, you will. So Jane, we're going on a guided meditation, and what we're looking for is, as Fish asked us, I want to have the unseen realms of whatever terminology is used to have an almost inconceivable amount of connection and integration into my life. So that's what tonight's guided meditation is about the it's not almost, inconceivable amount of connection and integration into your life, And the title of this show is, what's truth, And what is truth? Truth is, the inconceivable amount of connection and integration into your life. That's truth. Nothing else, not what somebody tells you or some book or some religion or somebody tells you. No, you don't. The S word was almost in my head, right on the tip of my tongue. You have the authority, right? Authority. That's the word. You have the authority. Don't give it away. And when you have the authority, I like to look for examples that I can use. And any of you watched, in the last 50 years, Doctor Who, and he keeps getting regenerated into different characters. They're all Doctor Who. But what is the commonality between all those characters? The personalities, everything is really different. They look different. Some are old, some are young. Some have fashion sense, others. Anyway, they all have authority. They're the doctor, And as the first one said, you may be a doctor, but I am the doctor, And that's authority, Sovereignty, that's the word I was looking for. Sovereignty, right? And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that individual sovereignty. And what does that mean? It means the authority is given to you by love's co-creation, not by some text or book or, the Bill of Rights. They have been taken away. You have to look in 1871, our Constitution was changed from the point of the Constitution basically stated that everyone had sovereignty. And then in 1871, what happened was sovereignty was given to corporations. And the District of Columbia was brought forth. And that's when corporations got sovereignty and people were turned back to being chattel. We went back to the days of the padrones and the serfs, and we were less than a serf, we were chattel, we could be used, bought and sold. And even though the Civil War allegedly was about slavery, it wasn't. It was about this. It was about corporate, whether we were going to be a republic that made sure the individual had sovereignty over themselves, or that we were going to be a corporate fascist democracy ruled by an elite that controlled the mob. And that's democracy. And that's where we are right now. And that's why things are so extremely strange, right? But the more of us that can create, as the artist in the first person, the savage, and hold on to that sovereignty, and the vehicle is creativity. And Fish, you want to write these great ballads, then be a bard. And what is a bard but someone who is constantly connected to love's co-creation? That's a bard. And St. Patrick broke that connection, and that's why he could run the Druids out of Ireland. Now, he never did, because that's where the hedgerow schools came. The bards were, they could blend into the rest of the population, but a good example of the Mel Gibson movie, the Irish, freedom, that guy, he was a bard. He knew a bunch of languages. He was well educated, even though he was a mud puppet down in the crew, but he understood what was the value. And that's why he never gave up. You want to write these songs, Fish, you never give up, you never give in. Bottom line. Right? So say we all. Now, we're all working towards, trying to be the bard. That's what the cadre is, But we get distracted by, our screens and our materialism and, having, bated breath for Amazon to, deliver by the drone that new color of toenail polish. I'm always excited. I love coloring my toenails. My body, which has made it known to me that it has a problem with my leaving it. I was in journey and it was like my body was in panic. Yes. Well, you need to, that's why you need to breathe, because the more you can get the prana in your body, it's like what's happening is shamanically you're holding your breath, right? This is a common, you are describing a common thing that people experience, and that's basically you're holding, and there are a lot of people I see all the time, they're not breathing, because they don't want to let go. So, you really want to write these songs, really want to understand the ancient Celtic ways and see all of that history, not just read it in some Schlemiel's book, but, be there, be part of it, because, as I was describing that whole thing with the vacuum and, 0 point energy. You are the 0 point energy battery, you know? And when you're going into a panic, it's because your battery is being drained. It's like a dead short. You take the positive side of the battery, you put in a grounding rod into the earth, and you attach that to the earth, and it'll drain the current straight out of the battery. I mean, how does that happen? I mean, why? Because that is a little point there where that 0 point energy kind of is having its little thing. And if you take the negative and connected it straight to the positive, just a wire between the thing, that wire is going to turn into a toaster oven, right? Because it's turning that into an, energy. So, and that's how how does a flying saucer work, right? Oh, there's a Thomson T. Brown effect. These guys in the 30s, 40s, 50s, these two scientist guys that were kind of like me. They weren't like whoop-de-doo. I mean, one guy had a degree, the other guy was just a Tesla kind of guy. And basically, they took a copper plate and then put a what's it called? Like something like fiberglass or something that wouldn't let the current go between the two, right? And you take a wire off the top plate and one off the bottom, and the bottom one's the negative to the battery, and the top is the positive, and that plate will float. Just float. And if you add more plates, it'll float more. Dielectric, that's what you put a dielectric between. You basically turn it into a capacitor, right? And a flying saucer, what a flying saucer is it has like 8 of these plates, right? Separate. So you can energize 2 at a time. And so, and you've got this circle, the flying, why that's a saucer, it's a circle. And you have about 40 to 60 of these plates, like slices of a pie, all the way around the flying saucer. And you have in the center a flywheel, right? And you basically have it set up to be the energetics of a Tesla coil. And once that flywheel gets torqued up, because of the way there's a center core that has wire in it, and then the flywheel itself has a coil. So it's making a donut of current, like our Earth does, what's the physics term that'll pop into my mind? Anyway, so it's making this field of current, and it's being conducted by the central one that this thing's going around, and you have no armature, so it is direct current, right? And you feed that current into these capacitors all the way around, and because you've got stacks, two, that 8 of them. If you were to energize all of them, you go straight up really fast. And again, as I was describing, this works on bringing the vacuum out of the universal, right? And basically, what you do is, if you want to go this way, you instead of energizing all 8 plates, you energize 2 or 4, and it'll do that, right? And because it's creating, I wish I could remember the term, this donut field around the whole flying saucer, just like our Earth makes the electromagnetic field around the Earth. This is around the flying saucer. So all of the effects that are around it don't affect it, right? And because it's absorbing all of this current from the vacuum, it's getting rid of inertia. Inertia is weight, friction. And so your flying saucer, the more current you're drawing out of the vacuum, the lighter your flying saucer gets. That's why the B-2 stealth bomber can fly, 18,000 miles on one tank of gas, is because once the sucker takes off, they have a similar device that puts a BT field around the thing. Does two things. A, that field kind of makes it more, it absorbs the radar waves, right? So you don't get a radar signature. And it gets rid of the inertia. So as it's going through the air, there is no friction. And thirdly, the entropy is absorbed, and so the weight goes away. So this thing is like a balloon, takes virtually nothing to move it forward. It doesn't really need any aerodynamics. It's, the wing does have a lifting to it, but it has more of this toroidal, that's it, toroidal force. And that's what you are. Just what I explained in physics, that's what you are, So if you visualize, play this video over and over and over again, and put it in your head. So, fish, you're my body, which has made it known to me that it has problems with me leaving it. It's not so much you're leaving it, you are just kind of because you aren't your body. Your body is just your avatar. So that's why I have you sit in a chair, lie down, breathe deep, and put yourself on automatic. Your body can be very happy without you in it. It doesn't care. As long as certain amounts of energetics is being, and as long as you're breathing in that prana into your lungs and having your heart pump the blood, your body is going to be, that's why, bodies keep going if you're brain dead, because everything that keeps the avatar alive is autonomic. The you part, your freely conscious ascending mind, or consciousness, I don't like to use the word. The mind is the squirrel in the Rolodex. That's, so visualize that. Realize, tell your avatar, your body, don't worry about it. You're fine. You're safe. And that's why I keep saying you find yourself a safe, comfortable place to put your avatar so we can, first energize the avatar to the point where the, autopilot can run it safely. And then we illuminate it with scalar energy and bring forth the photonic light that illuminates your imaginary mirror, which allows you to illuminate your subconscious and see that it's not a scary place, but a simple library, right? So, and fish, that's all you got to do is go into the library. You don't have to go nuts, just go to the library and look in the book, get the information, it's right there. And the more you practice this, the more comfortable you'll be with this, the less you will get rid of the panic. The panic is just your squirrel. You're not, breathing deep enough to put the squirrel asleep. So your panic is just your squirrel going, oh, wait, I'm in control. That's, you got to put your little squirrel to bed, right? And by doing that, I mean, when you go under the knife in the operating room, they give you ether. And what that is a chemical compound which, puts the squirrel to bed. Thus, your avatar goes out. It's very happy to be kept alive with the mask over you and the machine pumping things and doing that. And so, I mean, that's what they the medical model understands that. I'm, showing you how to do it without having to have, a $500,000 operating room. Or, what kids do by taking fentanyl, and then dying. I mean, around here, there's these rich kids, the most rich school. They take fentanyl and die. And they have that other drug that brings you back because they want to experience the other side. A number of police, this would go back a number of years, had me teach them how to go into states so they could talk to these kids while they were on the other side coming back to freak them out enough to have them stop doing it. And that actually worked until their parents told them, well, the police have no right to blah, 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 blah. And this was all on the QT, and the cops said, oh, you didn't do anything. But those were the few aware police officers. And there are a bunch, but they are being forced to be the SS. This one policeman once said, he had been, a sheriff. And so he worked in jails and he worked in courts. And he said that he was more incarcerated than the guys in jail. He was more, incarcerated, because his consciousness. I mean, the other guys just know that they're, because they did something, or they're black, or they're a certain economic group, or any of the above. But the cops are, once they go there, they are fucked with mercilessly, right? Anyway, let's see. Yep, separation anxiety. It's your body, one of those thunder jackets they give dogs who get super anxious during thunderstorms. Or you learn how to breathe deep. The more you have to have toys to do things, that's just another thing you're putting in place of, accessing your consciousness, right? Okay, so here we are. We're in deep. We're looking at our Akashic record. So how you doing, Fish? Have you been able to get into your library? Are you looking at your Akashic record? Are you seeing Ireland? Are you experiencing, the tales, right? As you said, the deep information. You said you wanted to know this stuff. So, don't let your squirrel, be stronger than what you want. I want to have the unseen realms of whatever terminology is used to have an almost, forget the almost, to have the inconceivable amount of connection and integration into my life and my consciousness, right? That should be our mantra. That should be the mantra of the cadre. I want to have the unseen realms of inconceivable connection and integration into my life and my consciousness. That, as you're going into state, you want a mantra, that's one. I want to have an unseen, I want to have access to the unseen realms of the inconceivably connection and integration into my life and my consciousness. Okay? That is our mantra, our new mantra of the cadre. Thank you, Fish. I want to be the inconceivable connection and integration of love's co-creation as my life and my consciousness. I want to be the inconceivable connection and integration to love's co-creation as my life and my consciousness. Okay, and every day and every way we will be the inconceivable connection and integration to love's co-creation as our life and our consciousness. In every day and in every way, we will be the inconceivable connection and integration to love's co-creation to create our life and our consciousness. Okay? So, fish, I want you to say that, as you're breathing in that 20%, as you're breathing out that 30%, as you're seeing the prana illuminate you from the inside out, I want you to say as your mantra, and everybody else who feels any incapacity to go into state, you will use this as a mantra. And every day in every way, I will be the inconceivable connection and integration to love's co-creation of our life and our consciousness. Okay? Okay. Jane, I don't even know what that is. Jane Jones says ADHD. Oh, is causal. Yep. What happened when it's like your squirrel is on like meth? Yep. That's what it is, and the way to shut the squirrel up is just that. In every day, in every way, we will be the inconceivable connection and integration to love's co-creation of our life and our consciousness. That'll shut the squirrel right up. Okay? Just keep at it. Boop, 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 boop. Yes. We all have to modify whatever advice we may receive because we're all individuals, But, this is the interesting thing. We are individuals, but all of our individuality creates the totality of love's co-creation. That's all our relations. That's why we all have to get on the bus. Even Lucifer has to get on the bus to go back home. We don't leave anyone behind. We don't throw anyone under the bus. There is no good or bad. All there is the inconceivable connection and integration to love's co-creation that creates our life and our consciousness. Right? And thank you, Fish. You brought that to us, Fish. You brought that. That's the gift you brought tonight to the chorus. I was having to pay attention to see what was coming and what is going to do. Yep. Well, that's a good thing. That's having a 360. And if you get used to doing that, then it's not a drudge. It's not, everything in every way in every day. And if you take it with the peace of the earth, howdy, y'all. Hey, Nate. Divine Fish has given us a great thing to keep the squirrel in our head quiet. a mantra. In every day and every way, we will be the inconceivable connection and integration to love's co-creation to create our life and our consciousness. So you want to shut the illusion up. You breathe that 20% and you say that as your mantra. And every day, in every way, I want to be the inconceivable connection and integration to love's co-creation. That is my life and my consciousness. Right? I feel as though meditation brings happiness. Yep, it does, because you're getting outside of yourself. You're getting outside of that me thing. And you realize one of the greatest connection to happiness is when you make someone else happy. Why am I doing this? Because energetically, I can see that this makes you guys happy. I can tell that it's changing your life and making you happy. And the more you're changing your life, it's making you happy. So as you get happier, I get happier, right? That's why I deal with all the stupid, YouTube this and platform that and blah, 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 with occasional much trips to keep the consciousness in check. Back in the 60s, I knew all these shrinks that, especially at Duke, when we were studying paranormal psychology. So they took shitloads of drugs, and the woman I was with, she was, a brain scientist. They didn't even have a name for what she did then. And she was a woman. And she used the fact that she was a woman to do things that if she was a guy, she'd have to be the lowest man on the totem pole. But no one paid attention, right? And she would do these experiments and they build these protocols and do all this stuff. And the really smart guys, the guys who were like in charge of these departments and these experiments and these grants, would see what she was doing, and they'd go, wow. And they'd go, hey, can I talk to you, honey? And she would put them in their place, and they go, wow, that's even better, because they were the kind of guys who like to get whipped and hit with the, can you put on leather? I'm a scientist. And then when she would introduce me to those guys, and I'd say, well, I can make this machine that does what you want it to do. You don't have to study old ladies and muumuus. I think we can, and you don't have to take a ton of drugs, because if you want, I understand why you're studying this, because you want to make a super soldier. You want to, have a guy who can, like Neo, Neo is a super soldier in the Matrix, right? And that's what they were going for. This company out of California, it was called the SEAL Corporation. And that was, it was part of DARPA. DARPA had all these cutouts that were corporations. And so when they did research, no one could use a FOIA to find out what they were doing, because it was proprietary information. And that's what, the dark DARPA world is about. All these that's why Lockheed, Boeing, General Dynamics, they all study this stuff, and they have, that's why they're the guys who built the flying saucers, And, I was a bench electrician. What a bench electrician. They wire things. So I would make stuff, and, I was never read in, never told what it was for, but hey, I'm a smart cookie. I can, and now it's all coming out. Townsend Brown and Germans who came to America and went to California in the 1840s, meaning when the middle of America was still wild and crazy Indians, the Spanish got California and dug up the gold, and then the English kind of ran them out of town, And so it was the doorway to the Pacific. So they would come all the way around South America to go to California, and that's why they built the, Panama Canal. And but in the 1840s, there were a bunch of Germans there that invented flying saucers. I mean, they did this whole the thing that I totally explained to you. They did in the 1840s. And if you go on my, playlist, there is a bunch of YouTube channels that describe all the physics, all of this, everything, you name it, it's right there. It's on YouTube. And that's, there are hundreds of YouTube channels that describe it. And like last night, when I was a little frustrated, I was just playing YouTube things on the TV, and someone snarkily said, "Well, I came on to watch you, not see you play somebody else." Well, moron, wake up and see what I'm putting. I mean, I'm choosing what to show you because that information is off the hook. So go look at my playlist. I was being nice. You were going, I should put it all and, spoon feed it. Well, I was spoon feeding it, and then you complained about it, right? Anyway. So we're now an hour and 21 minutes into this thing. Super learning psychology reply recording. Okay. Replay okay. Like I said, it's all there on my playing list. Just, take at your leisure, go and watch my playlist, and it's all kind of up there. And at your leisure, go watch, last night's YouTube. And at your leisure, take a dart and throw it at the 600 or so shows that I have up there on my Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob channel. And, I'm trying to teach you the intuition. Intuition is the major tool of shamanism and a major tool of being an alchemist, because all of these things, yes, they're books, they're, potion, what do they call them? When you're cooking something, you have a book that tells you how to do it. And sometimes there's instructions on mix this with this and this and this. Well, often it doesn't work because the best way to do this is with your intuition, right? So you guys need to start working on your intuition, and that's what your Akashic record is for. It's got every instruction book in the universe, right? And it's all yours, meaning medicine and all these other, hegemonies. Why I'm doing pretty well is that, yes, I've taken what modern medicine has offered me, and I have shamanically, energetically gone through what they say I should be doing, and I find the things that resonate best for me, and I do it, in connection with my doctors. Now, it took me 2 years to find 5 doctors who would do that with me. I went through about 15 doctors that, here's Dr. Larry. And, I'm a doctor. I know you take this drug. Well, it's really making, I don't care. I know better than you. And I'd go online and print out the thing. I don't have time to read this. Well, the first doctor I found who had the time to read it, I go, you're my doctor, right? And the doctors that I go see, my 5 doctors, my eye doctor, my bone doctor, my endocrinologist, my GP, my surgical guy, all of those guys, go see them. They like it when I show up because I know exactly, the information to give them so they can go, And then they say something to me and I take it back to them and we do this. And they learn something, I learn something, and I get better and better. And the fact that I'm getting better and better makes them happy. That's why they've been, whereas the other guys in the waiting room who are getting their legs chopped off because they're still eating candy bars. Anyway, I mean, been at getting well, since 2000, and 14, right? 14 to 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 5 years. And I've been getting better. I lost 280 pounds. I still have all my limbs, all my everything, and all of my blood always, hey, wow, you're doing great. Like my endocrinologist says, I'm the healthiest dead guy he knows. So they really like the fact that I do that, and they learn from me. My eye doctor, it costs lots of money to do the things he does to my eyes so I can still see. And he had a space for a guinea pig, something that he could, document and look at the process and how it affected me. And so he had that space. He goes, you don't have the money for this, do you? I go, no. He says, well, I got this one little space. I need a guinea pig. I said, I'm your boy. So I get, every time he does a procedure, that's like $3,000, but I don't have to pay it because I'm his guinea pig. And by being the guinea pig, I get a better. I mean, they really, every time they do it, they just don't go, oh, you look okay. They really, put all kinds of crazy machines in my eyeballs and look way in there and take pictures of it in movies and you name it, and blood tests and you name it, and in ways that, normally people don't. And it checks other things, they put all kinds of dyes in me and just doesn't, and they can tell what's going on in my other organs by what's going on in my eyes, right? Which is, very much like in the 19th century, there was a medical osteopath who did that, because your body was interconnected, and what was going on in this part of your body had an effect on that kind of your body. And they did muscle testing, and these guys kind of do the same thing, but they're just looking at the effects in your eyeball. So I have, again, what's one of my rules? Live like a millionaire, but don't be one, right? So I'm having the healthcare of a millionaire, and I'm a homeless guy, Whereas most of the other people in the waiting room, they are poverty-stricken, and they live a life of lacking, right? They live a life of restraint. They live a life of non-abundance. Where I'm in the same economic neighborhood as they are, and I'm living a life of abundance. Whenever I need an extra whatever, oh man, my gas tank is empty, I kind of start going through my car and there's a 20. I don't know how many 20s I've pulled out of my car, from the bottom of the floor or between, the seats, or, whatever I'm looking for, there it is, right in my car, because I kind of live in my car. So that's what you guys need to do. And the best tool is your breath. That will, breathing in the prana and illuminating your cell structure, taking it from a 2-dimensional Hertzian into a 16-dimensional scalar, illuminating your each cell's mitochondria till that vacuum, when your cells are splitting. When that split occurs, that's when you're taking the 0 point energy and healing your body. I've explained it. I've visualized it. I've shown it to you. You just need to practice it, right? The fact that I do this constantly in guided meditation, you guys need to step up and start doing this yourself, right? And the best barometer of this is, like my barometer is, I've lost 280 pounds and I'm like, even though I have no bones connecting my feet to my ankles, I can walk. I used to be in a wheelchair, and then I had metal braces and crutches and a walker. Don't have any of that anymore. See, I can actually get up without having to have a walker. I can walk around, I can move. I have no, and yet where my foot connects to my ankle, there are no bones. There are 9 little bones, they're gone. The neuropathy turned it into mush. And I have other parts of my body that's, mushy, and yet they still work very nicely. My organs have issues, but they work very, like my endocrinologist says, I'm the healthiest dead guy he knows. They all pretty much, by this time, it's 5 years, they said, yeah, well, just keep doing what you're doing. And they've all had me teach them how to meditate, and they actually do it. I mean, 3 of them really do it. I mean, like 4 or 5 times a day. They made me a better doctor. I'm more successful. I'm making more money. I'm healing more people. I'm not stressing myself out. I feel great. I'm, having great sex life with my wife. My kids love me just because I showed them how to breathe 20% more in and 30% more out and go into their Akashic record. They are my best. So they're disciplined people. Now, out of the 5, 3 do it like every day, and it's changed their life. The other guys do it, but they only do it when I kind of remind them, and so they'll do it for a while, and then they'll get too busy, but it's been a number of years now, and they, they're really saying, okay, I'm gonna, it'll be interesting if those 2 do it. But anyway, that's where we're at right here, right now. See the luminescence in this, right? And I'm being illuminated by an incandescent lamp, Now, it'll really be fun when I'm being, illuminated by this incandescent lamp and I don't have shadows anymore. That's when you can go, wow, Sensei El Bob. When I can put up my hand and that shadow is not there anymore, Just got about another 22% to go, So let's see. I felt pity for both sides. Let's see. Have exploded into some fun. Ha ha ha. Yep. Well, you guys wanted me. I put it into categories, and I was, and I learned on how to take it from all the stuff I've been watching and putting on a playlist so you can see it. I still have, I watch a lot of stuff, and I should, take more time to put it on my playlist, but maybe once a week I'll have extra time to go do it, and I do. And, but I probably watch 100 or so more things because a lot of people send me stuff. Blue Water sends me stuff all the time. A number of you folk do, which is a great thing. Well, in chemistry, you kind of need a recipe. In cooking, you don't need a recipe. In baking, you kind of do. I mean, if there are certain things in baking, it's chemistry, it's science, Cooking is like art, so it's intuition. Now, I know scientists who are so sharp on their intuition. My first wife, she was the Albert Einstein of the darkroom. And we made a great team because she mixed all those chemicals and they were like always the same, always, all the time. Now, I built her a darkroom, so I had one of those things that she could set so the temperature of the water coming out would be exactly, so she didn't have to constantly do the thing with the thermometer. I did a lot of things that made her life a lot easier. That's why we were a great team. I did things that made her life easier, and she made it so my printing photos were better, and it kind of brought it up to her level. And my printing, back in the day of printing on paper, once I got it, a lot of people used to do test strips and get the exposure just right. Well, I had these eyes that I could see what it was, and I would be calling it getting in the groove. And I would, I'd have maybe every week I'd shoot about 100 pictures that I wanted to print. Maybe I shot, 20 rolls and had 500 images on those 20 rolls, but I got it down to 100, and I'd have it on one of those plastine sheets of the negatives, and I'd make contact prints of those sheets, so I could say, okay, this one, this one, this one, this one. Right? And back in the day, I got her a focal. We had 2 focal mats, and those were Leica enlarges, and you put the negative in and zoom it in, and you could just go. It was on a spring thing, and once you got it focused and the exposure, you could make it bigger, smaller, and you didn't have to like refocus it every time. And so once I would get in the groove, I could really print the heck out of an 11 by 14 print, which is the kind of print you want to make, and they're harder than 8 by 10s. The other I was 11 by 14 print and postcard. I ran across in Willoughby's with cases and cases and cases of postcard photo paper, where it had the postcard thing on the backside, put stamp here, address here, right? It's a postcard, and then it had photo paper. And those are the two sizes, postcards and 11 by 14s. And we had a studio in New York for almost 7 years on 21st Street, and it was called DNA, Donna and Albert. And so I've been in the art world, a good 15 years before I met Donna. And I knew all the guys who owned galleries. Billy Kluber, who was the guy who curated the Armory show that became the Museum of Modern Art. He was my mentor at the Council on Foreign Relations. Anyway, so I had a lot of pretty hefty, mentors and people I knew. And that time in my life between 14 and 30, people were always trying to sculpt me into what they thought I should be. So they gave me lots of access, right? And I was always very respectful and very, right, but I never stopped being me. And that would kind of frustrate them and also endear me to them, right? And the folks who were my, what do you call it? Back in the day, when Leonardo da Vinci had the guy who paid his bills, what they call them? That's what I call these people. I didn't quite pay my bills because my skill sets at what I did, I didn't have to ask for money. But connections, different thing. Forget that word. Anyway, so when Don and I came together, we were a dynamic because I could schmooze up a storm. She was cute and amazingly talented. Like I said, the Albert Einstein of the darkroom. And she was a great photographer. I mean, Donna Ann McAdams, go Google her, go look at her pictures. And she had a real career before she met me. I mean, she did amazing. She left, she grew up in a little town in Long Island. Her mom was, dental technician. Her dad was like a Tesla character, but because he came from a poor family, had no education, got drafted in the Korean War. Then he went to work for, Boeing or some, military industrial contractor out there in Long Island. And when he died, he had a heart attack and they had to replace him with like 6 PhDs and they paid him less than the janitor. So he was this amazing guy who never got a break, right? He was an amazing athlete. He should have getting a job. He should have been a golfer because he could, to the day he died, he was better than, Arnold Palmer. Anyway, so she left Long Island and she was a really great dental. Her mom taught her how to be a dental. Donna did what I loved most about her is that whatever she did better than anybody else. I mean, I taught her how to be an electrician. She was a pretty good electrician. She didn't like getting shocked. And as an electrician, you kind of get shocked every now and then. She really didn't like that. And we would be on sites that was all these guys go, hey, baby. She didn't like that either. And she wasn't like, so all my other girlfriends before her became her best girlfriends. And she couldn't understand that one either because all the people that she was involved with up to the time she met me were kind of schmucks and, said mean things and girls were like competitive with her. And the girls who were my girlfriends before her weren't not like that at all. And when they met her, it was like a club, and there was a point where these girls would get together and have a girls' night out and just tell stories about me and make fun of me, which was fine. She'd come back, you did so and so. I said, yeah. And so, and they all kind of, went, both ways. And so they kind of got into that too. And she felt better and better about that. And she was, for a good 6-7 years, she was really super happy with me. And I was super happy with her. But at a certain point, I don't know what happened. We had done so much stuff. She got to a place where she just wanted to be Donna. And she thought she had to break it. And I never stopped caring for her or being her friend or any of the above. But if she wanted that, sure, she often did that. And what's interesting, if you go look at her, like I said, go Google her. She's bigger than life. Pretty much everything she had done up until she broke with me, she doesn't really talk about. I mean, she should. She went to the Art Institute. I mean, she drove her little Volkswagen from Long Island all the way to San Francisco, got herself into the San Francisco Art Institute and got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. And she became Rolling Stone's #1 darkroom. She did all their printing for them. And she was Annie Leibovitz's #1 first darkroom, #1 assistant, right? That's pretty cool. She had a pretty whoop-de-doo life in San Francisco in the late 60s and early 70s. And she doesn't really talk about that. And she had loads of, really great, photo buddies, because she loved, I'm an Aquarian, so I love doing things with the group of people. And one of the things that was really great, we would go out and shoot together. She liked doing that. She liked shooting. So Gary Whittingham, Hilton Braithwaite, a whole bunch of that crew of guys and gals, she knew, and if she had stayed there, she would have been part of Magnum on her own, and I don't know if she got to a point where she, because I kept, doing things that you should have gotten paid for that. The people should know about that. You should got patent that, fuck it, And my basic, I kept saying, I don't want to belong to a club where people would, have me in the club, right? At least at that part of my age, because I liked being free and navigating. And she was a person who was great. She was, we were co-creating. We both had a wheel. We were both driving, taking the boat up the river together. She wasn't back there. We were shoulder to shoulder. And that's how I like to be with people, shoulder to shoulder, sharing the weight. So, so that was Donna. So 1 hour, 43 minutes and 26 seconds. So I'm just giving you a little taste of lots of things energetically. And one of the things that I was my lasting gift to Dawn was I was me, and it kind of rubbed off on her. So who she is today is what is not the person that I met on the subway. And she definitely has her own authority and her own sovereignty, big time. And she had it in her own way, but she kind of was always acquiescing. Now she has, when you have your own authority and your own sovereignty, you don't have to be pushy. You don't have to, you can have, I kept talking about the egoless ego, and she really has that, I see it in her work. I keep my eye on her. I keep my eye on everyone and everything. That's why I'm your sensei, Al Bob. And I have friends who own galleries, and when she has a show in them, I'll get a little ring, because I've had the same phone number for the last almost 30 years, no matter where I go. And so she, I don't know how long ago, because I'm not in New York anymore, But I went to see a show, and we had been separated a good 12 years, and or 8 years, somewhere between 8 and 12. And I showed up at her opening with 3 dozen roses because I knew a place down on 8th Avenue where you could go there and they'd have boxes and boxes of roses that were just about to go off. And they, if you didn't buy them then, they'd be throwing them out that night, right? So you could buy a dozen roses or 2 dozen roses or 3 dozen roses for, $1. And I went, I got an armful of roses and I brought it to that. Got a nice bow and tied them all together and brought it to her opening. And she had more roses than, it was anyway, she started to cry and hug me and kiss me. And her what do you call it? Not cadre, but courtesans. No, the guys, where the movie star has his people around them. They made that TV show about him. She had those, and they were like, "Oh, who's this guy?" And oh, he's okay. And that was a very nice night, And she said all kinds of things. I said, "Oh, honey, don't worry, It's all water on the bridge, and I've never stopped loving you. You are, we were together. We did amazing things. We traveled the world, I've got great stories to tell about our travels, and I only experienced that because of you. And so if you go to my XRATTED, I think it's cut number 6. It really discusses our relationship and all the crazy things we did and our travels to Australia and lots of other things. So I'm going to count from 3 all the way to 1. I haven't been counting, once I got past 1, I didn't say 2 or 3. So now I'm going to start from 3. You are in a deep state of conscious awareness. You're in your Akashic record. You just shamanically experienced all these stories I just told you. You were there, right? You learned a new mantra. And every day and every way, we will take the peace of the earth by being the inconceivable connection and integration of love's co-creation to create our life and our consciousness. That is your mantra. See it clearly. Whenever you get stuck, whenever you lose your keys, whenever you need some help, some guidance, say that mantra. And breathe in that 20%, breathe out that 30%. And if you do that 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times a day, within a month, all you have to do is close your eyes and take one big breath in, and you'll be right there. Your squirrel will be like you just hit it with ether, and you will be able to pursue every avenue without any anxiety, any fear. Your health will become much, much better. You will become more creative. You will become more wealthier. You will be able to have the life you wish. See it clearly. And 2, you're in a deep state of relaxation. You're in your Akashic record, your animal totem, your librarian, your animal totem, and your guardian angel are to your left. You bow with respect and appreciation, and you walk with illumination out through your imaginary mirror, and you are waking up in your avatar. And now you're totally there in your avatar. You feel the breath in your lungs, and you're waking up. You feel refreshed, rejuvenated, better than you did, better and better. You remember everything, and tonight when you go to sleep, you will be able to do this process and go into a plane in your imaginary mirror where you have your REM sleep, dreamy time, and you will be able to have, lucid dreams. You'll be able to be awake in the dream. See it clearly. And 1, I had a nice lucid dream one of the things I do is I sip a half glass of water. So I have to take a piss around 3 in the morning, right? So I go to bed sometime between 9 and midnight, and then I'll sleep from 9 or midnight to 3, and then I need to take a piss. So I get up and take a piss and come back, go to sleep. And I can go to sleep very quickly. But once I do that, I go straight into REM sleep. And then I have a dream, and I'm lucid in that dream. And as soon as the dream's over, my eyes pop open, then I go into state and put the dream in my Akashic record, and then I go back into REM sleep and have another. So anyway, I've been doing that pretty much, since Sunday. Been doing that very consciously. And because I'm kind of it's just me and the cats, and the house is very quiet, and there's no anxious energy. And so this morning, got up at 3, took a piss, had an interesting dream. And, put it in the Akashic record. I had another interesting dream, put in the Akashic record. And then I kind of had, it was, I looked at the time, it was maybe 4:30. And the sun kind of starts to light up the sky maybe around 6:30. So 2 hours. So I fall asleep, and I had this amazing dream that I'm with the cadre, right? And there's about 40 of us, and we've got the little circus going, and we pull into a town, and it's either in California or Mexico or somewhere along the coast, the Pacific coast, or it could have been along one of the Great Lakes, but it looked like a big ocean, right? And I think it was because the waves are pretty big. But it's after the big earthquakes, because California wasn't the same. And people, they were not rushing around, and not everybody's running a car. There was still technology, but it was a different kind. It was more like scalar. People were sort of putting gasoline in their gas tank. They were, using their third eye to bring forth, 0-point energy in a device. And some people were just blinking out and ending up 300 miles away. So it was a more interesting time. But, it was a mix of lots of different stuff. So we cruised in our little circus, and there was this highway. There was a town over here and a town over here, and then there was a big bridge over something that no longer existed. So that bridge was gone. So the road was the end there. And over here, there was an airport and other roads. The major road was gone too, but there were other roads. And so, and then there was a big hill, way high up. And from where we were on the coast, we went onto the big highway, and then there was a road that went up there, the only road that went up there, in this whole space of, 50 to 100 miles. There was one road that went up there, and there was still a kind of town up there, but it was no longer a town, but there was just a bunch of people, and there was this one farmhouse. And so we kind of landed at the farmhouse, and then we traveled down to the coast, and we found a really beautiful piece of beach, and it had a cove, and so it was protected from any storms, and it was really, really beautiful, really, really special. And we had a couple of big tents, and we set up tents there. And at the other end of the beach, before the mountain kind of went up there was a house that was a really nice house, but when the earth changes happened, half the house was like kind of in the mountain somehow. But the other part of the house was a nice veranda and a kitchen and a couple of bathrooms and a living room and a big veranda that kind of went over to the ocean. It was really beautiful. It was yellow, very bright yellow. And Didn't have any electricity, but it had photonic light, meaning when it got dark, it was as bright as I am now, but photonically, no shadows. So anyway, we kind of had a place up at the farmhouse, and there was a kind of a lake up there with a waterfall that came into the lake, and then another one that went off the lake and down into a river that went out to the ocean. So we set up a little event, and it was like carnival, rainbow gathering, county fair. People. It was really quite interesting. And I woke up a number of times. First it was finding the place, and that was really nice. And we went to this town that had been a pretty big town, had the airport on it, and there were stores and restaurants and all kinds of things. And there was this bar, and there was pinball machines, and they only had one. And we went in there, and John has gotten a pinball machine that he wants me to fix up. Anyway, long story short, I kind of fixed up a couple of their pinball machines that made me the dude in that neck of the woods. And so, guys said, "Oh, you can always have lunch here. Your people are fun. You want to have a party. You want to bring. We see you've got your tents over." Anyway, so I would go to have lunch there, and we had a vehicle that we could ride from within that 100-mile radius, right? And went in there, and this one girl, she's probably, I don't know, 25 to 32, somewhere in there. Very attractive, very tallish, and she was a mix of a lot of gene pools. Maybe she might have even been a Kamara. I mean, she was a very special human being, another species. Anyway, so she's playing the game, and I'm having lunch with a couple of people who hang out there, and I'm talking about this, that, and the other thing. And she's kind of looking at me, I'm kind of looking at her, and I finish my lunch, and I go out into the vehicle, and I go, no. And I turn around, and I walk up to her, and I said, "So there's a pool table here. Do you like to play pool?" And she goes, "Yeah." I said, "Then why are you playing this game?" And she said, "Well, I like to play pool with somebody else, not just myself." And I said, "Oh, let's play pool." So we did, and we played a number of games, and we seemed to realize, she goes, "Oh, what are you doing now?" After we played, a bunch of games, and I said, "It's getting dark. I need to get back." And she goes, "So you got with the circus that's on the beach?" I said, "Yeah, I'm with it. Yeah." Mm-hmm. Anyway, long story short, she became my girlfriend, and she became part of the circus. And she could read anybody's anything. I mean, she was, people go, "I'm psychic." Well, there's no such thing, right? I know this. Now, there are people who are intuitive. There are people who are, can go into state really, really well. But that whole thing of what a psychic is, not so much. I learned how to pretend to be a psychic when I worked at a carnival, and the lady who is the gypsy reader was, the person the owner said, "You're going to stay in her RV," because she kind of hated me at first. And then we got to like each other. Anyway, so she showed me all the tells and a lot of the stuff that I know how to read people. I learned from her. I knew psychology, and I knew a bunch of other things, but, cards, tea leaves, all that kind of stuff. And I kind of got this kind of shamanic imprint from the old crone, but I didn't practice it, But once I met this girl, and she was connected to Ireland and kind of understood who and what the old crone was. Anyway, so in my dreams, my girlfriend was a mix of the girl I knew at the carnival and the old crone, and an extraterrestrial entity. And so, First was we landed at the farmhouse and the thing. I woke up, went back to sleep, went in that town, met her, came back. She became a that. And then the third dream was us being really, you know, I was as old as I am now. I was the guy I am now. And back in Ireland, the first time when I left the old crone and came back to Trinity, and I went to, the mystery little alley where the tea lady was, and she read my tea leaves. She said, I'd be married 3 times. She said, Donna, my second wife, and the third one. And she said, third one, you'll be really old guy, and she'll be relatively young to you. She said somewhere between 20 and 30. And she will be an amazing, she will be the woman. And that's, because John's always, whenever I tell John about my second wife, that's your twin flame. You shouldn't be with anybody but her. Well, she's dead. So, and again, you want to hear that story, go to xratted.blogspot.com, read that story. Because it's more than she's dead. It's a whole other thing. And so my third wife, that's, I'm going to have sometime before I go to the other side, is going to be, and that's why I had that dream. It's going to be, it was my little antenna going, okay, you better be on the lookout. Just don't let, I don't know how long it was. And this is why I had this dream. About 2 weeks ago, I was at this place that I took the kids to. I took Twitchy when I married them, her and her husband, and we had the marriage dinner at this place called the Shenandoah, and we played pool there. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, and every Monday they have meatloaf Monday and chicken pot pie Tuesday when they make that. Anyway, so and everything, and then they have a really great fish dinner, which if I'm not getting meatloaf or the pot pie, that's what I get. And every big meal with a drink, $10. You can't beat it. Anyway, so about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I went to it's Monday, meatloaf Monday, and I went in there. And I had that little, I had my meat, there was no meatloaf, so I had the fish dinner. I sat there, I read stuff, I looked at the internet. They have pretty good Wi-Fi and a good phone. That's one of my places I can connect to. And so I was walking out, and there was a girl right by the door who was playing one of those video gambling games. And I walked by, I was walking to the front door, and I had my bag of books and my coat, and it was getting warm. So anyway, she was playing that game, and she looked at me. She gave me this look. I gave her my look, and I kind of slowed down like I was going to say something. But I kind of went in the car, and I put all my stuff in the car, and I came back. And I came back, and she was no longer there. Like, where'd she go? And she had gone into the pool hall part, and luckily I kind of went in and looked, and there she was. And she was playing another pool game. And so and she was kind of in the dark. The lights were off in the part where she was in. And so I kind of went over and kind of looked at her. I kind of walked into this pool hall. There's nobody there but this guy who was like, he was drinking pretty steadily and smoking cigarettes because you can smoke in the pool hall. And anyway, so she was over there, and I kind of looked at her. She looked at me. She was very attractive. Again, she's like in that age between 20 and 30. And I was thinking what to say to her, and this guy just gave me this vibe of don't even talk to her, right? I don't think she was hooked up, but he was drinking enough to get his courage to talk to her. So I just said, well, you have a good day. And she kind of smiled at me. And I don't know if that was the girl, but it was enough to put that whole image into my dream. And that's how we dream, the foundations of our dreams, those little, the scenery and the characters wasn't the same. I mean, it wasn't the girl that I saw in person at the restaurant, because the girl in my dreams was, like I said, a mixture between the, my second wife, the old crone, the card lady, and an extraterrestrial, and she was quite tall. I mean, very tall. And she was very fair, but her hair was dark red, not like ginger, but dark red. And so I'm going to be looking for a girl like that. So anyway, that's how we have dreams. That's how we can have vivid dreams. Let's see if you've been saying anything more. I found boop, 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 boop. Let's say this sounds like house I dreamed to build. Yep. Boop, boop, boop. I guess we're talking about kitchens here. Oh, disassociate is a tough word. Fish says all the things in our subconscious are the part of ourselves that we disassociate from. Now that's just Freud talking to you. Your subconscious is your library of your Akashic record, which is everything in the friggin' universe and nothing that you've disassociated yourself from. Let's see. Disassociated. Your may reach the critical mass, and then, like attention disorder, split into multiple myriad dualities. How easy to make a split whole. Yep. Love is the way to make anything whole. Let's see. Yes, this may occur, and the masses continue to be induced. Yep. The powers that shouldn't be. That's what they use, the powers of illusion to keep the sheeple and that's where they get their juice. Well, I think that it is also for the utilitarian purpose the ego starts to form, and we decide that, the whole psychological world is a con, right? And if you want to spout it off, you need to go read the dudes and dudettes history of the Tavistock Institute. And that's all of this crap from especially Freudian point of view. And when I say crap, it's not that it's not relevant, but it's relevant only to the illusion of the Luciferian illusionary material world. Now, all the other folk who, Leconte and Jung and the myriad of other folk, they all got great little points of view, and that's all they are, little points of view. But to hold on to them as some kind of anchor or lifeboat or none of the above, they're more just interesting points of view that should inform you to create your own, right? That's what it's about, creating your own ascending conscious free will. And not being stuck on like, I know what it's, I'm, the people I drop names all the time, but it's not so much to like say, I'm cool, but it's more a reference point on what I'm talking about, right? And that's what a griot does, And that's why I keep saying, don't believe anything I say, Don't, unless it resonates with you, it's irrelevant, So spouting off, stuff like disassociation and and abbreviations of mental issues. And the things in our subconscious are part of ourselves that we disassociate. No, sorry. Luke's story, recent podcast. I have no idea that. So Blue Water, I was like, well, looking at your the things that you sent me today. And so, see, creating alternatives. You just that to us. Oh, here's our girl.
And I've got this new one, and it crashed too. And I believe it crashed because the surge arrestor was taken down. And that's what explains two computers going down the same night. Well, all right. What I'm thinking about, because I'm working on the semantics project, is how we who are kind of cosmopolitan and
Whoops. So that's our sister, Emily, right? And she's kind of cool. I really like her. And what's this one? Blue Water. Oh, here's Luke's story.
Bruce, welcome to the show, man. Thank you, Luke. I'm very, very pleased to be here. And I think we have some wonderful, empowering information to talk about today. So that is exciting to me.
I do too. I think that's what I like about your work specifically. I mean, it's so vast, but there's something that I'm a huge fan of, and that is that we are not victims of our environment and victims of circumstance, that we actually have some license and influence on our level of satisfaction and health as human beings. And that is super exciting to me.
Well, it's great because we've been programmed to be victims throughout our whole life.
And that's what we talked about all night, right? That you don't have to be a victim, that you can, through this process of energizing yourself with photonic energy, you can clear out whatever cobwebs, whatever shadows you may have. And through your Akashic record, you can see the 411 of what direction to go in. I mean, so I'll put that, this is Blue Water sent me all this stuff. She sends me a lot of stuff. She's very prolific. What's this one? And I'm going to stick them up on the...
This is Margaret Ann Windsor, and the name I have to use is Peggy Ann Dempsey. I married to Childers. I found out about my kidnapping in 1983 after I had run in a political campaign to replace one of the doctors I wrote about in a medical malpractice book, unpublished, because they almost killed me more than once, but April Fool Day of 80. I found out that my father's King Edward VIII, and that my father, and I found this out from the British and Germans. I found out that my father was married to Claudia Ruth O'Keefe Windsor, sister to artist Georgia O'Keefe, from Sun Prairie or Madison, Wisconsin. And of course, Georgia had Ghost Ranch out near Santa Fe, New Mexico. Artist.
So, Blue Water, is that Emily's sister, or is that Emily being a whole nother personality? That's pretty, that's pretty freaking amazing. Oh, she's Elizabeth Emily Windsor. Is this Emily?
All her money was tied up illegally. So it's been a horror story of what was done to my mom and the O'Keefe family. And then done by part of my family, George, the illegal George VI, and of course Elizabeth's illegal. And the point they say would be that they would have a Jew monarchy, British monarchy. Well, they're illegal. They took down my father, who never married Wallace Simpson. My grandfather, George the Fifth, died. I would have to look back. It had to be the last month in
And I've got this new one. It crashed too.
Is that the same
And I
woman?
believe it crashed because the surge arrestor was taken down. And that's what explains two computers going down the same night.
So that's kind of strange. Is that the same woman, Blue Water? That's kind of amazing.
The southeast facing camera in Tok, Alaska shows a very large cameras in Alaska according to the Holy Bible, and to explain why this is actually good news and cause for celebration. Explain later in this video. The images being shown are current, unedited photos from the Federal Aviation Weather cameras in Alaska and Canada. Each image is 10 minutes apart from the next. They form a time-lapse video when strung together, such as the one playing now from the east-facing weather camera located in Minks Island, Alaska. In Luke chapter 21, verse 25.
Anyway, so Blue Water, she's a great fund of stuff. So I'll put her stuff up on my timeline there. What's this one?
Would you like to earn money and help your community? If you have a qualifying smart thermostat, join Appalachian.
Ooh, smart thermostat.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today is Monday and every Monday now I am creating a video on being vegan, vegan cooking, or vegan nutrition. And it dawned on me today that I have never made this video before. When I planned on making a YouTube channel at first, I remember this was on the top of the list of videos to make, so I'm not going to go fully in.
Now, the thing about diet is that everybody's different, you know, and within the construct of Indian medicine, they have this very interesting thing where they break people up by your blood. Pitta, I mean, they have these names, and some people can eat meat, others can't. Some people need to eat this, and some people need to eat that. And I had a Indian doctor teacher, and I was learning certain aspects of Vedic medicine from him. And he worked at the VA. He was, you know, a surgeon, and you know, I was the alternative guy, and so our boss put us together, and I, you know, studied with him and helped him and did a lot of things with him, and mostly, you know, rewired his house in Queens. And he showed me, because he didn't want to do his Vedic medicine at the VA, because he was a, you know, Indian surgeon, and that's what he wanted to be known as. But he was happy to, because he had a big library at home and so. Anyway, but that really made a lot of sense to me, that everybody's different, and there's like these 7 categories or more, and you generally see where you fit into that, and then in each of those categories, there are even more. You can fine tune your diet, because in Vedic medicine, they try through diet, exercise, meditation to stay in good health, so you don't have to, you know, go under the knife or you do anything extraordinary, right? So, so people who are, anything that is a religion, you know, politically, I mean, science today is a religion. You know, people are going, oh, if you don't believe in global warming, then you're a Nazi. No, sorry. There's really not enough science to talk about that. Now, the shit that we put in our atmosphere, not good, but that's poisoning us. Our weather, the real deal about weather, the way people, like, the almanac, that does better. I mean, that can tell you what's going to happen in a year from now better than any model that NASA can give you, because the almanac has been doing this for a long time and has access to information of the trends of weather for 1,000 years. So they look at it that way, and they have their own ways of looking at the trends. They don't even do algorithms, and I'm sure they do it now, but back in the day when I was hanging out with people who did that, it was a whole different way. And so science today is a religion because, people go to the mat for it. They don't have an open mind. I hung out with people at Carnegie Mellon and people at Cornell and, people who were, they were scientists and they always had an open mind. Now, the scholastics, not so much. It wasn't in the textbook, yeah. But all the people who were my teachers, mentors, bosses, they all had an open mind, and that's a scientist. That is a person who's looking for truth, and that's kind of where we started off here at is, what is truth, I said my gas for stoves because power goes out. Let's see, 500 plus energy patents confiscated by government, I'm sure. Piece together something. Yep. But see, the problem with 0 point energy, very simple stuff. I mean, I explained it to you right there, the flying saucer thing, capacitor, Tesla coil in the middle. Once you do that, it sends off scalar energy, which you can pick up. And, when I made my first little scalar device at 10, it wasn't too little, it was about 10 foot high. And it was, interfering with Kennedy Airport. We were right in the glide path into Kennedy. And so, the men in suits showed up and turned off the power to the house. And, they thought, this was in the 50s. 50s, yeah, late 50s, almost 60. That, you got to be a really bad person if you're doing this. No, it's just a 10-year-old guy and a 70-year-old Italian grandma. Yeah, that's my grandson. He does stuff like that all the time. They took it all away, but they knew exactly what house to come to. So you play with any of this stuff. And again, back in the 80s when I had the boys of the U.S. Cyclotronic Society, we had our own little laboratory out in Long Island. And one day we were playing with something, and we were in the kitchen. We left it humming, in our lab, and we went in for pizza. The pizza guy showed up, Domino's showed up, and we went in there, drinking beer and eating pizza, and I'm looking out the window, and this black Lincoln is coming down, the road, and it went from 2 blocks away to pulling in the driveway like that. I mean, it just went like that. It was there, and these 2 guys didn't even see the doors go. These 2 guys in black suits, black hats, black sunglasses, black shoes, walking up towards, and then, it was like they were cut out of time. And they came in and they read us the riot act, and they said, don't do that anymore or any again. And they know the guys because they all work for, military contractors. And they said, you want your job? You want your career? You want your life? Stop doing this, And we were all like, right? And they just went out the door, and I looked out the window, and their car was frigging gone. These were called Men in Black. And they gave off the aura of like, I normally don't get scared. Well, not so much scared me, but what the fuck? And then after they left, they were like, and we drank all the beer, and then we went out, and the garage that our laboratory was in was gone. Gone. It was just the backyard, gone. The driveway went up to the grass, and it wasn't like it got pulled out or bulldozed over. It was gone. Where that concrete pad was grass. And I had nothing to do with renting that place, but the two guys who did were freaked out. And so they, we all kind of like cockroaches split after we got out there in the backyard and saw that. And, those guys had to deal with the landlord. And, but we were still part of the U.S. Psychotronic Society, so we would see each other when we had those meetings. And we were also part of Annie Oakley's DARPA laboratory, and we'd see each other there. And, weeks afterwards, we never talked about it. And then I asked Preston, so what happened? And he said, what do you mean what happened? I said, what happened to, the landlord? What landlord? The house that you had there, our laboratory. What laboratory? It was like the Mandela effect. Me and this other guy who came from California, who was there, were the only two who remember that whole episode. The rest of those guys, either they didn't want to talk about it, or somehow it got wiped from their memory. So, let's see. So that's what, if you play around with Tesla toys, that's kind of what happens. Quantum creation. Divine fish. Sounds like the house I dreamed to build. Yep. I love cooking with gas. Yeah, gas is good. When I can cook, electricity, the whole secret to electricity is you get the pan hot, you get the food boiling, you turn it off and let it cook itself, period. And electricity is very good that way. It's just that people forget to turn it off and they burn their food. That's, electric is like a nuclear weapon. Mission dream is important. I had a dream with the face of a bison species staring me squarely in the face, and I felt like it was me telling myself not to eat meat. Oh, well, it could be something else, Like I said, cows are like really big dogs. They're really sweet. So I try not to eat beef. Chicken, I eat chicken and fish, I never quite bonded with a fish or a chicken. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. I have to wait like listen, because then even if I went to shit, we get interesting. Your life doesn't have to go to shit. Pretty much everything takes two to tango. If you don't tango, I mean, my first wife, Dawn, it was a part of her that she wanted to fight, and I would never fight. She got very upset that I think one of the major reasons why she split was that I never fought with her, right? I said, come on, let's talk it out. Let's work it out. And she would, because I think that what she had was her other boyfriends, she would have these great arguments and then she'd have sex. And I said, sex should be separate from everything else. We have a good time. We don't need to involve those emotions into that. We can, have the emotion of love. We can have the emotion of intimacy. We can have, all of those emotions purely, rather than involving anger and all that other stuff. Anyway, let's see. Almost 2 hours and 30 minutes. So at 2 hours and 30 minutes, I'm going to say, see you tomorrow. This was a good chat. Everyone's home, everyone's landed, everyone's in their body, everyone's awake, everyone's there. It is at 2:30, and so I love you guys. I'll catch you on the flip flop. Remember to get a hold of me at the Dude Awake 42 and comment on that comment. More comments, and go get people to become part of the cadre. To what do they call that? I don't even like calling them that. Where you join, where you're whatever that's called. Anyway, so 9:02 golf course time. You're on a golf course, a golf coast. We're above 260. Woohoo! Okay. Yep, we're above 260. 262. But we got to get to 1,000. What do they call those guys? No. Suspects? No. I call them the cadre. Anyway, more thumbs up, more like comments, more people to 1,000. To 1,000. And see you tomorrow. Right? And I can't do the only thing I can do on my phone when I'm out and about. I can't do live chats. I can put up a minute or 2 or 5 minute or under 7 minute video that then I upload on the old thing. But tomorrow, I think I'm just going to stick with 7:30 p.m. On Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. Make my life easy. Just do one, right? I got 620 shows up there, or 600 plus. And again, I urge you guys to go view, all the guided meditations that I've done on the show. And there's got to be at least 200 or 300 guided meditations if I've got over 600 shows on my channel. So go look at any of them, just because they're all shamanically hung up there. So they're all very energetic. They all will have an effect on you. And, in every day and every way, take the peace of the earth and make it stronger to be the inconceivable connection and integration of love's co-creation that will create our life and our consciousness. And with that, I say good night, and I love you guys. See you tomorrow evening, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? And if I do anything during the day, it'll be on my other one, my Alibaba, because that's I'll do it on my phone. Okay. Okay.